The Fallen Mountain Range was located on the border between the Hall of Souls and the Sky Mansion Alliance. Both parties had fought many battles in this mountain range in the past. The battles moved back and forth and could be considered unusually intense. The name of the Fallen Mountain Range could be traced back to ancient times. It was rumored that quite a number of elite Doshungs had ended up dying in these mountains in ancient times. Although this legend had caused many treasure seekers to roam the mountain range many times, they were unable to find any Doshung remains. But the lack of treasures did not tarnish the reputation of the Fallen Mountain Range within the Central Plains, especially when this mountain range was chosen as the spot where the decisive battle between the Hall of Souls and the Sky Mansion Alliance would be held. The Fallen Mountain Range's reputation had suddenly soared again. It was unavoidable that news would spread, but it seemed like both parties had underestimated the shock that the news had generated. Within 3 days, the somewhat deserted Fallen Mountain Range had filled with a vast number of people at a shocking speed. Those factions and experts from all over had swarmed toward the Fallen Mountain Range. This fight for the position of overlord of all factions within the Central Plains was an eye-grabbing event. It seemed that these factions and experts from the Central Plains were all extremely curious to learn who would emerge as the strongest in this clash: the old powerhouse, the Hall of Souls, or the new Sky Mansion Alliance. Within 3 short days, the human traffic within the Fallen Mountain Range had reached a terrifying extent, forcing the magical beasts living in the mountain range to endure a hardship. Some of the magical beast tribes living in those mountains hurriedly moved their tribe in fear of being implicated, which could result in the destruction of their tribe. While the number of people flooding into the Fallen Mountain Range reached a saturation point, the hearts of the countless individuals present suddenly surged. None of them expected this trip to be in vain. Such a decisive battle would definitely be earth-shaking. 3 days quickly passed in front of everyone's eyes. When morning sunlight tore through the clouds and scattered across the ground on the 4th day, the atmosphere of the mountain range became extremely heated. The rushing sound of wind continuously echoed across the sky as many figures flew together like locusts. Their destination was the same. They were headed to the Fallen Mountain in the middle of the Fallen Mountain Range. The Fallen Mountain was the most majestic and precipitous mountain in the Fallen Mountain Range. It was extremely tall. Some of the mountain roads were so steep that they were almost vertical. Hence, there was no way to climb this mountain. The peak of the Fallen Mountain was so smooth it seemed as though a huge mirror had been built on it. The sunlight that landed on it was reflected into glaring light rays. From a distance, a pillar of those rays seemed to rise from the mountain and penetrate the clouds, giving it an unusually majestic and grand appearance, which caused one to feel prideful. Adding to the ambience was the countless number of people floating all around it, causing the blood of many to feel like boiling. If one were to engage in an all-out fight in front of these many pairs of eyes in one's lifetime, one would regret nothing even in death. The sky around the mountain was crowded with people. Any expert who possessed the ability to fly either spread their Do-Chi wings or directly stepped through the air. One could even see some old demons who had concealed themselves from the world and the grand elders of some sects present in areas near the peak of the mountain. It seemed that all these elders from the older generation wanted to witness the outcome of this earth-shaking battle. Although the entire mountain range was unbelievably crowded, not a single person dared to land on the Fallen Mountain. Even those old demons, who could crumble space with the lift of a hand, remained 10,000 feet away from the mountain. The sun in the sky became hotter with the flow of time. When the bright round sun reached the highest point in the sky, the light pillar that shot from the top of the Fallen Mountain into the air above had also reached its most glaring state. The light pillar that reached toward the sky appeared like it had connected with the bright sun above. When viewed from far away, it was an extremely spectacular sight. The space around the Fallen Mountain rapidly distorted when the light pillar had reached a peak state. A spatial tunnel slowly formed in front of the countless pairs of eyes present. Chi-chi. A cold, black fog surged in all directions after the spatial tunnel was formed. There was a sharp sound being vaguely emitted. This sound caused the expressions of many viewers to change. Their eyes were filled with disgust and fear as they stared at the black fog. The members of the Hall of Souls are here. Everyone clearly understood just who these people were from the prelude of their entrance. Everyone hurriedly braced their attention. The black fog churned after it appeared. 7 figures slowly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Those 7 figures all had vast and mighty auras. Many people felt extremely terrified from just looking at them. This Hall of Soul was indeed worthy of being the overlord on the Central Plains. They had taken out 7 Doshang together. This grand manner really caused only to have little choice but to sigh in admiration. The 2 leaders among the 7 were the chief of the Hall of Souls and that old man Hunamo. The deputy hall chief was the only familiar face behind them. The remaining individuals were likely experts from the Hun clan. This entire area quickly became dark and chilly after these 7 individuals appeared. Even the sunlight that scattered down from the sky felt chilly on one's body. The strength of this Hall of Souls is actually so frightening. The expressions of the Grand Elders from some of the large sects revealed the graveness they felt as they witnessed this scene. Only after personally witnessing the lineup of the Hall of Souls did they finally understand that there was a vast, unbridgeable gap between their factions and the Hall of Souls. The members of the Sky Mansion Alliance should reveal themselves since you have arrived. The chief of the Hall of Souls swept his eyes indifferently over the surrounding densely packed crowd after appearing. He immediately lifted his head and looked at a mountain far away. His faint voice was like thunder as it reverberated across the fallen mountain range. You are indeed worthy of being the chief of the Hall of Souls. Your sight is really good. A laugh steadily followed after the voice from the chief of the Hall of Souls reverberated. After which, everyone watched as the space on the other side of the fallen mountain swiftly became distorted. After the appearance of these 10 figures, the surroundings, which had become dark and cold because of the monstrous Do-Chi that radiated from the group from the Hall of Souls, gradually recovered some heat. Everyone quietly sighed in relief at this moment. Such a fight was too terrifying. Just the auras that seeped out alone could influence the temperature. The Sky Mansion Alliance actually has 10 Doshangs. Everyone carefully swept their eyes over the figures from the Sky Mansion that had appeared after getting over their initial shock. The sound of cold air being inhaled could be heard. Some of the old demons' expressions had drastically changed. 10 Doshangs. The Sky Mansion Alliance seemed to have brought all the experts in their hands. Adding Ancestor Huayun, the Qinghua Fairies, and a 1-star Doshang, who had joined the Alliance in the last 2 years after being invited by Yao Lao, the number of Doshangs that the Alliance possessed had reached the frightening number of 10. This lineup was comparable to some ancient clans. The surroundings became much quieter. Clearly, everyone was stunned by the great strength of the Sky Mansion Alliance. The eyes of some old demons and those Grand Elders from certain sects were filled with shock. No one had expected the strength of the Sky Mansion Alliance to soar to such an extent. You are indeed still alive? The chief of the Hall of Souls did not appear to lose himself when the lineup that the Sky Mansion Alliance had brought was displayed. With their information-gathering abilities, they were already clearly aware of most of the Sky Mansion Alliance's strength. Hence, he merely shifted his eyes and stared at the black-clothed young man standing at the leader's position. His heart felt disbelief when he first learned of the new information related to this young man. After having personally witnessed the might of the purifying demonic lotus flame, it was difficult for him to believe that Xiao Yin had been escaped the hands of the purifying demonic lotus flame with his life. Thank you for remembering me. Otherwise, I would not have been able to endure. Xiao Yin slightly smiled. His eyes scanned the chief of the Hall of Souls in front of him. A person like this chief was no different than a legend in his heart back then. At that time, he was not even an ant in front of such a person. Now, however, he was able to speak as an equal to this overlord, who had once stirred a bloody storm across the central plains in front of these many pairs of eyes. This indicated that he was growing at a shocking speed. The chief of the Hall of Souls was noncommittal when he heard Xiao Yan's soft, piercing words. "The demonic flame is in your hands." The chief of the Hall of Souls mused before he suddenly made a statement. Xiao Yan smiled but did not reply. The chief of the Hall of Souls slowly nodded in the face of Xiao Yan's noncommittal manner. A grave expression finally rose in his eyes as he said, "The defeated Xiao clan has been able to produce a person like you. If one were to discuss your achievements, you can be compared to Xiao Xian. However, since my Han clan killed the first Xiao Xian, we can also kill the second Xiao Xian." Xiao Yan's eyes were narrowed. Those dark black eyes had a chill flowing within them. Your Sky Mansion Alliance only has one opportunity in this battle. You will end up in a terrible state if you lose. Xiao Yan, do you dare to accept these stakes? The chief of the Hall of Souls quietly stared at Xiao Yan. His voice were like the chime of tens of thousands of bells. It was also accompanied by an extremely terrifying spiritual assault as it swept toward Xiao Yan from all directions. Xiao Yan stepped forward. His aura was smooth. That fierce tide-like spiritual assault from the chief of the Hall of Souls was not able to force him to take a step back. He lifted his head and answered in a faint voice, "Accept. I accept." A glint flashed across the eyes of the Hall of Souls chief after Xiao Yan uttered those words. He did not open his mouth, but everyone could sense the sudden increase in pressure. A storm was imminent. It is time to end our conflict. The many years of waiting had finally resulted in this situation. However, Xiao Yan's mind remained peaceful. He had once been a youth who had worked hard with final aim of defeating the Mist Cloud sect in the Jiama Empire, but then the Hall of Souls had appeared out of nowhere. They captured his father and destroyed his clan. They had even nearly ended the Xiao clan's bloodline. This hatred could never be reconciled. Since that time, the somewhat tender youth understood in his heart that his future path would be filled with difficulty, but he had chosen to continue advancing without hesitation because there were some things that could not be left undone even if they were extremely difficult. From a certain point of view, the Hall of Souls had played a great part in allowing Xiao Yan to reach this stage today. They had given Xiao Yan a potent motivation. Had he, how bold! Old man Hanamo beside the chief of the Hall of Souls glanced at Xiao Yan with a dark and cold expression as he strangely laughed. Xiao Yan glanced at him indifferently. He quickly looked back at the chief of the Hall of Souls and asked, "May I know how we will proceed with this challenge?" "There will be 3 rounds with the winner being the party that wins 2 of the matches. Each of us will send out 3 people to engage in an all-out fight," the chief of the Hall of Souls explained in a low voice. "Of course, if you wish for everyone from the Hall of Souls and the Sky Mansion Alliance to fight, this chief will not object. My Hall of Souls has stood in the Central Plains for many years. If you really think that you can fight us by randomly gathering some factions to form an alliance, you are really a little too naive. Your words do carry some weight since you have the support of the Han clan." Xiao Yan smiled and shook his head. He immediately said, "If we were to engage in a large-scale battle, even if my Sky Mansion Alliance ended up being annihilated, your Han clan would definitely suffer some serious damage. It seems that the Han clan is unwilling to suffer such losses." This decisive battle invitation clearly indicated that the Hall of Souls did not intend to engage in a large-scale war. Hence, they had arranged this fight between the highest-level experts. Although their battle would not be very large, they were representing their respective camps. If they were to lose, they would be weaker than the other party in the future regardless of what they could do. You are allowed to select the first two individuals. The chief of the Hall of Souls informed him in a faint voice. Winning 2 out of 3 rounds, huh? Allowing others to have what they want is a good virtue. Xiaoyan slightly smiled as he opened his mouth to reply. This Hun clan was unwilling to let the Hall of Souls suffer losses amounting to 80 or 90% of its strength. He was also unwilling to completely lose the Sky Mansion Alliance. The alliance was all he could rely on to fight the Hun clan. It had only gained such an achievement after being managed with great difficulty. How could he simply lose it? Although the words of the Hall of Souls chief might be unpleasant, they were indeed the truth. The current Sky Mansion Alliance was able to fight the Hall of Souls, but the alliance would definitely suffer irreparable losses if it really wanted to completely destroy the Hall of Souls. It looks like you are also unable to bear the losses from an all-out war. The chief of the Hall of Souls lifted a brow and spoke with a deeper meaning after hearing Xiaoyan's response. "Show me the people who will fight," Xiaoyan smiled and requested. He, this is the greatest provocation my Hun clan has received during these years." Old man Hunamo darkly laughed. He immediately took a step forward. "Young fellow from the Shao clan, include me as one of the 3. After old man Hunamo stepped forward, an individual with sharp senses would discover that this large mountain was gently trembling. A dragon-like sonic wave escaped from beneath old man Hunmo's feet. It broke through the large rock within the mountain's body in a wild fashion, after which it roared and rushed toward Xiaoyan. Bang! The moment the hidden force resembling a huge dragon broke free from the ground, a human figure stepped in front of Xiaoyan. A foot coincidentally landed on the ground where the hidden force was located. The hard ground immediately sank by half a foot. That hidden force was shattered by that figure. The Hun clan is still as underhanded as ever. Xiao Qian was expressionless as he glanced at old man Hunamo and slowly made a comment. Blood Axe Xiao Qian. Old man Hunmo's face was dark and cold. Both of his eyes were like poisonous snakes. He stared at Xiao Qian while he uttered each word with a pause. "You ants aren't worthy mentioning the name of the clan head." Xiao Qian appeared just like a slowly waking fierce wolf. A faint murderous intent seeped out of his body a little at a time. The chief of the Hall of Souls and old man Hunamo frowned. They did not dare to slight Xiao Qian even a little within his heart, especially since the chief had fallen to a disadvantage while fighting Xiao Qian within the demonic flame realm. The chief had become relatively miserable then. Now that they had met again, he naturally felt a great fear within his heart. "Haha, you are indeed worthy of being Blood Axe Xiao Qian. You are still this strong despite having not appeared for so many years." Although Xiao Qian was extremely well known, he ultimately could not avoid death. "Your Shao clan is destined to be only a short blooming flower." An elderly figure holding a walking stick, who had been standing beside the chief of the Hall of Souls and old man Hunamo, slowly appeared in front of everyone in a ghost-like fashion, without warning while the two were frowning. Xiaoyan's eyes focused the moment that elderly figure appeared. His expression was grave as he studied the figure. The appearance of this person did not even cause space itself to fluctuate, as though he had been standing in that spot from the beginning. The strength of this person is really terrifying. Xiaoyan and the rest beside him exchanged glances with each other. They were able to see some shock in each other's faces. "Hun Qianmo." Xiao Qian's eyes bore into the elderly person holding a walking stick. This elderly person was so skinny that he appeared to only be made of bones. His shriveled face wore a smile, which caused one to feel uneasy. Those eyes were not as turbid as an ordinary old man. Instead, they contained a strange brightness. Under that pair of eyes, it seemed that even his soul was emitting a piercing pain. The hearts of Xiaoyan's group shook after hearing Xiao Qian utter this name with a pause. The Hun clan had indeed dispatched this old fellow. Hun Qianmo. Gosh, he is still alive? The Hun clan has even dispatched him. Looks like they are determined to seriously injure the Sky Mansion Alliance. Elders with great experience were not scarce around the mountain. Some of the somewhat younger experts might not have heard of the name Hun Qianmo, but these elderly individuals were clearly aware of just how frightening this old fellow was. Trash who once begged for mercy before the hands of the clan head actually dares to show itself? Xiao Chun inhaled a deep breath. He suppressed the surging murderous intent within his heart and snarled with an expressionless face. Hun Qianmo's shriveled face trembled slightly. His eyes, which contained a strange luster, slowly swept over Xiao Qian and Xiao Yin. His hoarse voice was like bones rubbing against each other. Regardless of how powerful he is, he will not be able to avoid death. The winner is king. Currently, the Hun clan still stands at the peak of this continent, but what about the Xiao clan? The Xiao clan, which was once renowned throughout this continent, only lives on as a small group. They are on their last leg beneath the eyes of our Hun clan. It must be said that this is truly a tragedy. Bang! A dark and stern expression surged onto Xiao Qian's face. His body flashed and appeared in front of Hun Qianmo. A hand of his flew through empty air, and a huge blood-colored axe materialized. It was quickly accompanied by a sharp wind that appeared like a thunderbolt as it cut through the sky and violently swung toward Hun Qianmo. Xiao Chun, even though you have been lucky enough to survive until now, the current you is no longer that blood axe Xiao Chun from back then. Hun Qianmo's extremely shriveled face revealed a hostile expression when he sensed Xiao Qin's swift attack. His bone-like hand was clenched into a fist, after which it was thrown toward the huge blood-colored axe. Clang! The wind formed from this terrifying collision caused a couple of the Hall of Souls elite Do Shungs to swiftly withdraw with a change in expression. Only the chief of the Hall of Souls and Old Man Hunemo were able to stand their ground. Bam bam! The axe ruthlessly hacked at Hun Qianmo's fist. An extremely terrifying retaliatory force caused Xiao Chun to stagger back by over 10 steps. His expressions became a little dark and gloomy as he glared at Hun Qianmo. He had been trapped in the demonic flame illusion for thousands of years. His training results would naturally be inferior to Hun Qianmo's ordinary training, causing him to feel dissatisfied. Back then, this Hun Qianmo would only be able to turn around and flee with a terrified expression after seeing him. Xiao Chun, this elderly self has already said that everything has already changed. The current you is no match for me. Hun Qianmo glanced at the many faint blood imprints on his fist, but he simply ignored them and spoke in a faint voice. He immediately glanced towards Xiao Yin and licked his tongue. You have the scent of Xiao Xin in your body. It seems that you have really obtained his inheritance in the heavenly tomb. Xiao Yan's expression was calm. The strength of this old man who would not die was likely around that of a 6-star Do Shung. He was stronger than everyone present. The Hall of Souls had indeed come prepared. Xiao Yin, the Hall of Soul has already selected its competitors. It is your turn. The chief of the Hall of Souls indifferently glanced at Xiao Yin. He took a step forward, implying that the third person was him. A chill surged within Xiao Yan's eyes after seeing their opponents. It seemed that the big battle today would be intense. He should be able to deal with the chief of the Hall of Souls in one of the 3 battles. Old Man Hunemo would be left to Ancestor Xiao Chun, but the only big problem was Hun Qianmo. Ugh! Leave that old man who will not die to me. A small figure quietly appeared beside Xiao Yin while this thought was flashing through Xiao Yan's heart. That youthful appearance naturally belonged to the Pill Tower's ancestor. The ancestor Xiao Yin had met in the demonic flame realm back then,